So are you a golfer out there who's trying to add in more rotation to your downswing, but whenever you try to rotate more, you actually hit the ball worse? Because I know that's a lot of you golfers out there, because rotating in the downswing is way more specific than just trying to rotate more, because a lot of you absolutely will hit the ball a hell of a lot worse doing it. There are things we need to do in our golf swing prior to that so we can have this rotation benefit us massively in the golf swing. So I'm Jonathan Chow with JChowngolf. Let's dive right into it. Now, a lot of the reasons why you golfers out there who are struggling to hit the ball well when you're trying to rotate more, to get that good rotation we're all talking about that you need in your downswing, that's because you have movements in your golf swing that do not match up with rotation. So these will be things you have in your golf swing. Usually they might be backswing, they might be starting your downswing wise. That will absolutely result in a bad shot if you continue to turn. Because a lot of you golfers out there who are struggling to get this nice turn through the ball are struggling because of these things in your golf swing, because your body's actually trying to prevent you from rotating if you have these certain movements slightly off. So let's dive into a few of them and talk about them in a bit more detail, and then we'll be able to rotate and actually hit the ball better. Now let's dive into 3 moves here. Now these 3 moves are by far the most common moves as a coach I see that players do, that one, if they try to rotate from these positions, will hit the ball far worse than they did before. And 2, ones that they will generally stop you from rotating if you're not trying to add in that rotation. So the first one here, extremely common, steep shaft in the downswing. So if you've been watching a lot of my videos, you're going to know I talk a lot about a steep shaft in the downswing. Now, steep shafts, ultimately that shaft just standing up, getting vertical, the center of mass of the shaft pitching in front of you as you come down there. So why, let's say for one, will this hurt you if you try to rotate from here? Okay, if I've got that steep shaft and I continue to rotate my body, you're going to see how, one, look how much on the outside that club's got, and 2, of course, it's in the name of it, steep. I'm going to be hitting very steep, very, very down with my angle attack on that golf ball. So I would generally hit very much shots that would go way off to the right. They would normally slice out there or be big pulls because of the excessive path, and I would hit really right down to the core of the earth. So let's have one here where we're really going to get steep as anything. That was awful. So I had to actually physically manipulate my backswing to be able to do that, as I'm a golfer who normally gets quite shallow there. So absolutely, we will hit the ball worse if we try to rotate from that steep shaft. So again, but most players who have that steep shaft, it will be very unnatural of a feeling to rotate from there. Because what we see with players with a steep shaft, which this is going to be a common theme throughout these 3 moves here, is their body will try to shallow that shaft in the downswing. It will try to get it shallower. So how your body would do that, it needs to get this shaft pitched behind you. So if it's doing that late in the downswing, we'll see an early extension movement come into it. So you can see where that pelvis moves forward, my head moves backwards, so my chest moves backwards, spine extending, but we can see I'm not doing anything with my hands and arms at all. Club starts to pitch more behind me. But if I'm prioritizing that movement, I'm not rotating through the golf ball to be able to do that. So that's how my brain is getting me to slow down my rotation when I'm doing that, because that's the only way I can get onto this golf ball somewhat functionally and somewhat hit my ball to my target with that steep shaft. So ultimately, we can't be having that steep shaft there. We need to feel a shaft being slightly shallower in the downswing as we are coming down. So we, instead of this center of mass going in front of us, so steepening, we want the center of mass going behind us like this. Doesn't need to be crazy, just needs to be a little bit. A little bit goes a long way with shallowing, because if I can shallow that club, just like this, starting that downswing, you can see how I can just continue to turn my body, and then I get onto that golf ball much, much better. So let's hit one here, shallowing that shaft. You're going to see a little bit better of a rotation than the steep one, that's for sure. A little bit more functional of a move through the golf ball. So for ways to get more shallow, so you're not getting too steep, I'll put a card up here for that, so you can watch a video specifically about this. Otherwise, you guys are going to be watching a video that'll be about half an hour long. So for all of these, we're going to have a little card come up for this part of a video I previously made, so you're not sitting here watching a 30-minute YouTube video. So the second move that I see that a lot of players are doing, that will, one, get them to hit the ball worse when they try to rotate, but 2, also will probably stop you to rotate if you're not trying to do it. So Right, this is again super common. I think this is probably one of the most common ones I see in lessons with people not knowing quite what's going wrong. And that's because there's not many other YouTube channels that actually talk about this, which is very surprising to me with how much of an effect this has. And this is called your depth at the top of the backswing. So your depth of either your left arm or your hands. So if you've watched a lot of my videos, probably tired of me talking about this, but your depth at the top of the backswing, or your there of lack of it, is just your positioning of your hands in relationship to your body, or your left arm in relationship to your body. So if I have what's called a lack of depth, which is our problem here, that means my left arm is going to be very high. So you'll probably see a lot of my trail shoulder here, and my hands will be very high. So they'll be really over my toe region here. So where my hands will be dead straight over my toes. So golfers trying to rotate from here. God, what can happen? If they continue to rotate freely from there, you can see how that club is going to very much cut across the golf ball. It wouldn't quite be as vertically steep as a steep shaft, but it will still result in a very poor shot. So if you did not rotate, or if you tried to rotate, sorry, from here, you're going to really cut across the golf ball. So let's slow-mo one of these. Really, I mean, that ball actually didn't start too far offline, but that would have curved off horrendously out there. That would have sliced massively. Because you've always got to remember here, guys, when you try to rotate in a downswing, your hands are always going to follow where your body goes. So even though the next point of this, we're going to talk about sequencing, but even if I rotate in good sequence in the downswing, my hands are still going to go out in front of me. So if I have a position at the top of the backswing here that doesn't have too much depth, my hands are already almost in front of my body here. When I rotate, the hands are going to get so far out in front of me, it's going to shift my path so much on the outside that if I try to rotate from there, I will not hit the ball very well. So I'm going to hit it massively slicey. So what my body's going to do, very similar to the steep shaft, it can early extend from there. It can early extend, or something else that can happen with the steep shaft, drop the trail shoulder down early. So if we talk about the trail shoulder one, because we talked about how early extension in the last bit can get your club to pitch behind you, that's one of the things the body will try to do with a lack of depth as well, so stop you from rotating. So with dropping the trail shoulder, again, we see this with players with a lack of depth, is because when I drop the trail shoulder down, see how it artificially gets my club falling on a more neutral path, usually probably a little bit stuck underneath, but as we know, if we just freely rotate in the downswing, with hands being a lack of depth, club's going to get out in front of me. So dropping the trail shoulder down will neutralize that a little bit there, but of course, if we're doing that big movement of dropping this trail shoulder down, we're not going to be turning through the golf ball, so we could get very inconsistent with our strike and our club face control. But definitely, if I'm dropping that trail shoulder down, my low point's going to get way behind the golf ball as well. So thins, fats, tops, you name it. Definitely I see that when players are trying to rotate, for example, and their golf swing isn't suited for it. We'll see those strikes, but that's a way the body can try to react from this lack of depth. So again, I'm going to put a card up here for more in depth of how to get more depth at the top of your backswing, how to do it properly, because what we need to do, we need these hands to be more around us here. So you can see where my left arm is now, it's covering my shoulder line, and also where my hands are. My hands are behind my ankles. So I would want my hands to be anywhere from my ankles to just outside the back of my heel there. Because then if I turn from there in a downswing, the club is now going to be falling nicely on path. So it's going to be way more functional. So common. Make sure, guys, you've got that depth. So a little tip here to get the depth. Make sure, again, this is going to be very simplified. Again, that card will be a better one to watch for this little bit here, is make sure, one, your hands are following the arc, a mirrored arc of your golf swing. So they're going in and around to start the swing. So hands going in and around, feeling like they're getting fairly close to your trail leg there. And then make sure you're still feeling a good body turn up to the top of the swing. Good body turn. So really free up your turn there, because the more you turn, like we said, your hands follow where you rotate. Do the same thing in the backswing to do. So if you're rotating in the backswing, the hands are going to be going more around you. So really feel like hands going more in, really feeling like you're turning up there nicely, getting that depth up there. And then as you're turning through the golf ball, your golf club's going to fall on path and it's going to fall on the golf ball quite nicely. So guys, before I get into this last move here, I have made a course all on this topic of rotation, and that is called the Ultimate Guide to Rotation in the Downswing. Now, what this course is pretty much everything you need to know about rotation, on how to rotate and make it improve your golf game. It is a 17 video long course there that will ultimately give you a coaching level of knowledge about this, a way to practice for your own golf swing, to really identify what's wrong with your golf swing, what's stopping you from rotating, and how to apply good drills specifically for your faults there. So if you want to be able to have that and you want to be able to rotate, you can purchase that course, and that course is on an app called Skillist. Now, Skillist is the app that I do all my online coaching on, but there's also a little bit on there for online courses. So when you go onto my Skillist profile, there'll be a little button next to online lesson called More. What you do, you click on More, and then a little other window will come up that says Online Courses. Click on that, and there it is, the Ultimate Guide to Rotation in a Downswing. So if you want to learn how to rotate better and you want to know that topic in full, which it does make a tremendous difference, knowing the topic in full, having the good knowledge on it, it helps you loads. It's right there for you. I'll put a link in the description to download the app so you can get it too. So the last move here, guys, about why when you're trying to rotate, you hit the ball way worse, and ones that will generally stop you as well. And this one is for all you over-the-top golfers out there. And that is, as soon as you're starting the downswing, you are rotating, you're rotating more, but you're doing it in the wrong sequence. Your upper body is firing too hard, too first. So we need to rotate in good sequence in a golf swing, because if we don't, what's going to happen? If we rotate too hard with the upper body in transition, so starting the downswing, again, what's this club going to do? It's firing right out in front of me. It's getting really far out in front of me now. That's going to cause my path really out to in, and again, big old slicey shots. So if I rotate really hard with my chest from the start of the downswing, you're going to see an awful swing like this. Really not good. Again, I tried to rotate more. So where's the problem? I wasn't rotating in good sequencing. So if we want an over-the-top golf swing, sure, we can rotate like that for sure. You're getting rotation, but you're going to slice the head out of the golf ball. So what we need to do to be able to do this properly, we need to calm the chest down to start off our rotation first. So we need to, as soon as we start this downswing, rotate with the lower body and mid-torso. That's what we need to do here. Because if we can rotate with the lower body and mid-torso and leave this chest where it is, let's say we even got good depth, let's say we're shallow in the club, then we're going to be again in a really good spot in the downswing. So when our lower body and mid-torso turns to start off that swing, you might think, okay, well, when do I start rotating my chest? Surely I need to do that at some point. Of course you do. It happens naturally. You don't have to worry about it. Your chest will start to rotate because, of course, if your body is turning, your lower body and mid-torso starting, your chest isn't going to stay back here the whole entire time. It's going to spring through as well. Coiling up, springing through. That's what the golf swing ultimately is when it comes to the downswing. But if we are getting that lower body and mid-torso to turn first, and having that chest be very nice and passive, it will rotate, but it will rotate a little bit later in the golf swing. If you want to get real specific with it, I would say the best time to get your chest to really start to whip and turn through the golf ball, even though we said it does happen on its own, but if you want to know, that'll be right as you're getting from around shaft parallel to the ground, is when you want that chest to really start to whip through that golf ball there. So when we see all the best players, we'll see them at shaft parallel to the ground, their hips will be slightly open, their chest will still be level to the golf ball. So their chest still hasn't caught up, and then we'll see them from there, good old chest rotation going through the golf ball. That's the sequencing you want. You do not want your chest beating your lower body. Definitely don't want that. Because if we can get that, what we said, good sequencing, we're gonna meet that club to the golf ball perfectly again with a good path in there. So let's hit a shot of doing this good, and we'll see. Way better. So ultimately, getting another card up there, because otherwise, like we said, this video is going to be super long and none of you will keep on watching it, that's for certain. So another card up there for how to start the downswing properly. Lower body, this isn't my lower body, is it? Lower body and mid-torso needs to start it off. Chest needs to be passive, because if you don't, and you just try to rotate in general, you're going to hit the ball terribly. So ultimately, that's it there, guys. So if you found this video helpful, of course, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction, just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So ultimately, let's make sure we're doing these few things right first, and then we'll be able to rotate better in the downswing and actually hit good shots for it.